Exterritorial is a new film that's on Netflix, and it's been getting a lot of, attention. Every once in a while, when I'm looking for material to do my 10-minute rants on, I'll go in and I'll see what's pretty popular at the time, some new movie that's out, and I'll watch the movie and I'll kind of go I'll give my 2 cents on it. Exterritorial was kind of a surprise to me, because I think there's a lot of stuff that was good in it, but it does have a movie of the week type feel. Kind of like that movie I discussed, Last Breath. It's sort of like Exterritorial, I can tell, has a bit of a budget, but they strain it for the most part because the story is told in a very small space, but what they do with it, I actually couldn't believe it. I was actually kind of going okay, this is actually kind of interesting. So I had no idea what to even think about this movie. And this is one of those movies that I've seen, or Netflix does this a lot, where they have a movie or a TV show and they put a translation on it, but you can tell that the characters aren't really saying this thing, and the dialogue comes across as being a bit overly simplistic as far as what is actually kind of being there. A lot of times these things kind of come off as wow, it's like when you're watching a dubbing of something and it's that's not really how these characters can do it. I probably could have watched it with subtitles, but you know me, I'm always doing something else while I'm doing this. Maybe I'm kind of coming up with stuff like that. So I kind of just decided to watch it with translations. Anyway, so the main character of this thing is a character named Sarah Wolf, and she's apparently an army vet of some type, and I can't really remember. She's definitely from a different country, but she lands in the United States and has to go to a consulate or something like that. So yeah, they kind of have to do that. Or she comes to the United States. I don't remember. Okay, she's in a consulate. This is kind of how this happens. Now she's waiting for her turn to go through due process or whatever, and she has her son with her, and her son is basically, there's a nursery, and apparently, I think it's stated earlier, the kid wants a PS5, and then there's a nursery room shows up that happens to have a PS5, and he wants to play on it. And I'm kind of going have you ever done a PS5? You can't really just get on a PS5 and start playing things. It just doesn't really work that way. It's not like an Atari or something like that. And most games are pretty complicated these days. Anyway, if that's my only critique of this, count it good, because here's what happens. She loses her son, and I could see that plot thread coming from a mile away, and everyone could. Now, what happens next is a lot like another film I've seen before that was very similar, but it took place on an airplane. And that film was called Flight Plan, and it had Jodie Foster. And in that film, she had a daughter or something like that. And when her daughter disappears on this flight, and there's only a certain amount of places that she could go on an actual airplane, the Sky Marshal gets involved and everybody gets involved, and then it's discovered on the manifest that she didn't even have a daughter with her. So naturally they're trying to tell her, not only is your daughter missing, you never even had a daughter in the first place. And I really liked how that was done in Flight Plan, because suddenly it takes the psychological thriller to another level. So they try to do that in this, where essentially they have camera footage, and it's you didn't have a kid with you, is what they're trying to say. So basically they're trying to tell her you don't have a case here, you don't have anything. All we're going to do is end up with just sort of arresting you. And this is one of those films in which there's bad stuff happening behind the scenes, and they are essentially targeting this character. And this character is smart enough to realize that is what is happening and fights back. Now, of course, this character is an army vet, or some sort of military whatever. So they know how to do things. They were trained to do certain things. I think she grabs a paperclip and she manages to pick a lock with it or something like that, because most trained people in movies can do that. I've kind of noticed that happens a lot in these kind of films. Now, what makes this film special is the action scenes. There is one scene where the character manages to get on the outside of the building so she can escape, and she makes this one jump and she kind of stumbles on it, and the way it's shot, I actually leapt up out of my seat when I saw that. I kind of thought wow, okay, that was beautifully shot. That really brought the tension in. And then there's another scene where these two guys come after her, and she beats them up in such a way where the camera was really tracking the action really well. It was really easy to see what was going on there, and the fight was beautifully choreographed. And I kind of went like, wow, okay, this film is more advanced than I thought it was going to be. And so I really appreciate Exterritorial for that. I mean, if nothing else, you got a film that has almost John Wick-like action scenes, but they're not as drawn out as those. They are pretty much, they occur and then they stop. But while you're in it, you are in it. I mean, it is good. So for some reason, this character encounters like another character who's also kind of trapped there. I don't really remember what their story was. But essentially, yeah, this character is just sort of getting deeper and deeper and deeper into this mess. And she's trying to figure out, okay, who was the one person who not only took my son, but gave the order to do so. And so this is kind of what you kind of do in the film like this. Now I'm going to get into some spoilers here because I will have to say, sometime during this film, I sort of lost interest. I think there's something about this film that just sort of like, it peaks a bit too early. And then by the time we get to the end, it gets a little, I just kind of felt like, okay, this is starting to feel pretty average. So I kind of mid the rest of the way through this film. There's an actor in this film that I haven't seen in a while. I think his name is Dougray Scott. He's an actor that I thought would really get... You ever notice like certain actors, like they appear in things and you think like, wow, this guy's going to get big and going to be some huge A-lister, and then they don't. Dougray Scott was in like Mission Impossible 2 and Ever After, and two really good films. And he's a very handsome guy, but you know, obviously that was like 20 years ago, and he looks completely different now. I didn't even recognize him. I saw his name on the credits and thought like, is that the same guy? And maybe it isn't. I don't know. But anyway, so now here's something I would have actually done if I was doing this film. And I'm going to get into some spoilers, not only for this film, but for the film Flight Plan, because in both of these films where this character is being told, like, you don't have a kid, and essentially making the character question their own mental stability, I've always wanted to see a film in which the character didn't have the kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were making up that kid the whole time. And I kind of wondered what that would be like to really do a film like that. Because you'd really have to get into, because of course they would have to do, in the first act, you would show them with the kid. So you, the audience, believes it's real because it's being shown that it's real. But then when the character is faced with the reality that their kid never really existed, how do they deal with it? How in the world do they sort of come to terms with it? In other words, you do this scenario, but you flip the script. You find out there is no conspiracy. You didn't have a kid. You are making this up the whole time. And here's the thing about this thing. This character actually has severe PTSD. The first scene in this film is showing the character actually being bumped or running into some guy accidentally on the beach, and she gets kind of really off on it. And then I think there's like a plane that goes overhead, and she's immediately taken back to her combat thing. And apparently, remember how she said she has a kid, and she really has that kid. So spoiler there. Yeah, that kid was really kidnapped, and yeah, there were people that did it. So I got those spoilers out of the way. Well, apparently, the father of that kid, she served with in the military, and her husband died. Okay, so that's what happened. He was killed in action. I can't remember if they really show that scene, and but she has some severe PTSD for this. So really, the only big thing at the end is like I think she's like because remember how I said in the opening scene she almost like kicks a guy's butt because he just has the gall to run into her accidentally. Well, she sees a plane and she's immediately taken back to like her horror of war and stuff like that, which is a serious issue, and I'm kind of glad when films are actually really addressing this now. But I think at the end of the film, she has her son with her, and they're just settling down in America. She looks up, she sees the plane, and the kid just goes, "What's wrong, mommy?" And she goes, "It's just a plane." See, so she said there's character growth there. See? Exterritorial. Check it out. You might like this film. I wouldn't say I was blindsided with it, but I was pleasantly surprised by it. It's pretty good.